This lesson is on conversions. Looking at our unit organizer, we looked initially at where we got the metric system and where we got the English system. We then spent one lesson looking at converting from a metric unit to another metric unit. Today we're going to be continuing on that box, but today we're going to be looking at converting from any unit to any other unit, whether it be English system or metric system. And the big idea here is that we're going to be multiplying our given measure by some kind of a ratio, or maybe two or three ratios, in order to convert it to our desired unit. To warm up from some algebra, to remind ourselves as to how things work, let's do some really simple problems. We have 23 times 1. Obviously, that's going to be 23. Whenever you multiply a number times 1, you get that number back again, right? Okay, that's old hat, no big problem. Remember the same kind of a thing when you multiply any old number times a ratio where the top is equal to the bottom. That still cancels out to be 1, and so we get our same number back again. Well, today in our lesson, we're going to be taking some kind of a measure. Instead of the 23, it's going to be a measure of 23 inches, 23 miles, or any other number, and we're going to be multiplying it times a ratio. Now, the ratio is not going to be the exact same number on the top and bottom, but it's going to be the exact same measure, top and bottom. And so we're going to end up with some kind of a different number here on the right-hand side compared to what we started off with, but this number here is going to still represent the same measure as back here. And so the actual quantity is going to stay the same, even though the number changes. If that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, don't worry about it. It's going to become clear, I hope, in the next couple minutes. So here's another easy example that I'm sure you can do in your head. It is not in your packet, so don't worry about taking notes at this moment. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Let me show you how to do this with ratios in case you've forgotten from your last science class. We take our 2 feet and I put it over 1 just to make it look nice, and then I'm going to multiply it times a ratio. And this ratio is going to have the same quantity on the top and bottom. Obviously it's different, 12 inches, 1 foot, they're different numbers, but the length that they represent on the top and bottom is the exact same. So when I do that, I see that the feet here, I have it on top and the bottom, and so those can cancel out. I then do my math, 2 times 12, and I get 24. Only the inches remain, and so I get 24 inches, which is exactly what everybody expected to be the answer. So let's break this down into tiny little steps and make sure you all got it. First of all, write the given amount as a fraction over 1. This is not 100% required, but it just makes things look a little bit more balanced, a little bit more organized. Step 2, multiply by a fraction with the old unit on the bottom and the new unit on the top. Put in numbers to make the top equal the bottom. Multiply the numbers on the top, divide by the numbers on the bottom. And we're going to work our way through these steps with some examples here. Follow along. So 3.2 kilometers is how many meters? You might be able to do this in your head, but let's go through the process and make sure that you know the process. Write down the number that we're given and put it over 1. Multiply by a fraction, a ratio. On the bottom is our old unit, so that way they're going to cancel out. On the top is the new unit. And then we put in numbers to make the top equal the bottom. We have 1,000 meters is the same thing as 1 kilometer. The kilometers are going to cancel out, as I said before, and so now we have 3.2 and 1,000 on the top, so we just multiply those together. We get 32,000 meters. That's not right. Sorry about that. We got to erase that 0 here. There we go, 3,200. Okay, 7 meters is how many kilometers? Write down our initial measure, put it over 1, multiply by a ratio, have our old unit meters on the bottom and the wanted unit kilometers on the top. Now please note, this is the opposite of what it was in the previous example. Put in the numbers to make the top equal the bottom. We know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Once again, please note the 1,000 on this case is at the bottom. Last example, the 1,000 was on the top. The meters here cancel out. And now, to multiply these fractions together, we actually end up dividing 7 by 1,000, and you get 0.007. Example 3. Put our measure over 1, multiply by a ratio. Old unit on the bottom, new unit on the top. Now, you don't know off the top of your head how many ounces are how many grams, so I have a table for you in your packet. It should be a gray box of some sort. If you look in there, you'll see that 1 ounce is 28 grams. So our grams cancel out. We end up dividing 45 by 28, and we get 1.6. 2 miles is how many inches? Put 2 miles over 1. Multiply by a ratio. Miles on the bottom, inches on top. And now we have to think to ourselves, how many inches are in a mile? Look in the gray box. Do you have that number? No, it's not there. So we have no idea how many inches are in a mile. I suppose you could look it up if you wanted to, but that would be more work than we need. So what we do is we put the inches off to the side. We have 2 steps to do this problem. We're going to convert miles to something, and then that something to inches. So looking at that gray box in your packet, what unit can we relate to both miles and inches? And if you look, we can see feet. We know how many feet are in a mile, and we know how many inches are in a foot. So now we put in our numbers. Our miles cancel out. Our feet cancel out. All of our numbers are on the top, so we end up just multiplying them all, and we get 126,720 inches. Now that's a mouthful, and so in order to make things a little bit easier, I'm going to round that. I'm going to round all my answers to 3 digits, so I'm going to call that 127,000 inches. 97 centimeters is how many feet? Well, we put the 97 over 1, multiply by a ratio, put centimeters on the bottom, and I do not know how many centimeters are in a foot. So I'm going to put the foot on a different ratio. Now I'm going to look, what can I relate to both centimeters and to feet? Looking at that gray box, I can relate both of those to inches. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, 1 foot is 12 inches, and now our centimeters cancel, inches cancel, we're left over with just feet, which is what our answer is supposed to be. Now be careful, a lot of people mess up on this. When they do their calculator, they type it in wrong. The wrong way to do this is to type in 97 divide by 2.54 times 12. That would be wrong. The right way to do this is to hit the divide by key twice, because both of the 2.54 and the 12 are on the bottom. So we have to divide the 97 by both of them. Now, if you really want to have 2.54 times 12, since they're both on the bottom, you can do that, but you have to put it in parentheses so that 97 is divided by this whole quantity. Anyway, either way you do it, you should come up with the same answer, 3.18241, or in other words, 3.18. Now this is the way that I'm going to be rounding it. If you round it in a different way, you're going to come up with a slightly different answer, but please realize that they're all going to be legitimate. Here we go, next problem. 2 kilometers per hour is how many meters per minute? Now this is different because we have speeds here which have 2 different units combined together. So this is going to be a longer problem where we change both the kilometers and the hours. We write down what we're given. It's already a ratio, so we don't have to worry about the 1 on the bottom. I'm going to multiply by a ratio and convert the kilometers to meters. Put in our numbers to make the top equal the bottom. Kilometers are going to cancel out. And so now I have meters per hour. Well, that's closer to what I want, but I want meters per minute. So I have to convert this hours on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply by a ratio, but my old hours is on the bottom. So I need to have hours on the top here in order for them to cancel out. And then minutes on the bottom. Put in the numbers to make the top equal, the hours cancel out. Put in my numbers to make the top equal the bottom. And now I can do my math, and I'll end up with meters over minutes. So it's going to be 2 times 1,000 divided by 60. You'll get 33.3 meters per minute. 3 kilometers per hour. This is going to be a longer problem to get to miles per second because we have hours here going all the way to seconds. So that's going to be a couple steps in itself, and then kilometers to miles. So anyway, 3 kilometers over hours, multiply by a ratio, and let's convert the kilometers first. Kilometers to miles. From our chart, we know that it's, hang on a second, back up. We're going to write down all of our units here just for a change of pace. So this ratio here is going to convert kilometers to miles. This one's going to convert the hours to minutes. And then we need another ratio to convert minutes to seconds. Okay, so there's our general path. Now let's fill in the numbers. Our units cancel all out just fine, so in your calculator, we're going to be hitting the divide by before every one of these numbers on the bottom. And you end up with your calculator perhaps saying 5.2 e negative 4. That's your calculator's way of saying scientific notation. 5.2 times 10 to the negative 4th, or 0.00052. Any one of those answers is going to be just fine. But please remember, on your tests and quizzes, they're multiple choice, and so you're going to have to be able to recognize the correct answer, even though it's not necessarily one of those formats. Last one for the regular folks. 1 meter per second is how many miles per hour? So we take our meter per second, and we put meters on the bottom and miles on top. Remember that the M here stands for miles, not meters. This is the one place in our life where miles is abbreviated M. Every other time that you see a plain old M, it's going to be meters. So we're going to have to first convert from miles to kilometers. Meters to kilometers. And then we're going to convert from kilometers to miles. Next, we have to worry about the seconds. We're going to get that to hours. So first, a ratio to go from seconds to minutes, and then another ratio to go from minutes to hours. And you get 2.25 miles per hour. So whenever you see a speed given in meters per second, and you want to try to figure out how many miles per hour that is, basically you double it and add a little bit more, and that will be a good estimate. For regular folks, regular physics, you are now done for honors. You're going to go on to the second part of the video. It's another link, another YouTube video, and you'll see the following examples.